You're watching this video because you have possible concerns of asbestos containing materials in your workplace. Or perhaps you've already established that you have a possible asbestos contamination in your workplace and you want to solve the problem cost effectively and in line with the Health and Safety Directive. This programme has been specially made to help you understand the various processes and techniques involved with managing asbestos in the workplace. Also, we've invited corporate building managers, professional consultants and other specialists within our industry to help you understand the control of asbestos work regulations.
The major problem with asbestos fibre is that it crumbles easily and it breaks down and produces fibres of respirable size. There is no mechanism by which the lung can get rid of them. We'll start by having a look in your mouth, open wide. Recent studies have supplemented and confirmed what we have known for several years about the inhalation of asbestos, that it can lead to the development of asbestosis and mesothelioma and other respiratory diseases, many of which will prove fatal. Disease directly related to it or aggravated by it. It may be 10, 15, 25 years before any symptoms become apparent. Good, keep it going. Go on, go on, go on, go on, and inhale now. Good. The toll of these cases is greater than those dying in road accidents. And we can confidently expect this number of cases to increase over the next 10 to 15 years because we are reaping the problems from the 40s, 50s and 60s before we got to grips with the real problems and the management of asbestos at work.
The government body responsible for ensuring public safety in these matters is the Health and Safety Executive, and they have very strict guidelines that must be adhered to when working with asbestos. Failure to meet these requirements can result in prosecution with unlimited fines and imprisonment. When taken together with the fact that we live in a more litigious society, management responsibility and culpability has never been so acute. Only companies that have been awarded licences from the Health and Safety Executive are permitted to carry out asbestos-related work. These specialist contractors ideally should be affiliated to trade associations. For asbestos consultants who are accredited to undertake this work, look up the United Kingdom Accreditation Service website.
My name's Terry Jago. I'm the Chief Executive of the Asbestos Removal Contractors Association, known commonly as ARCA. ARCA was formed in 1980 by 6 specialist contractors who were concerned at that time that the subject of asbestos removal was getting very bad press. It's grown considerably since then, and we now represent 150 licensed contractors, together with 45 UCAS accredited laboratories that form our specialist division, ATAC, the Asbestos Testing and Consulting Division. The purpose of ARCA really is twofold. One, to represent a service to our members, and we also offer a service to clients in being able to recognise specialist companies that are able to work to today's stringent legislation. With regard to the way that we can indicate to our clients that they know they're going to get professional service from our members, we actually carry out site audits of our members, which is a mandatory part of membership, on 3 sites per year. There are other organisations that also represent licensed contractors. TICA, the Thermal Insulation Contractors Association, have a specialist division, ACAD. The National Federation of Demolition Contractors, many of whose members remove asbestos, also play their part in the industry with licensed contractors.
Asbestos is a natural mineral fibre mined in other countries and was imported into the UK. The term asbestos refers to silicate minerals with distinct fibrous chemical structure. So to try and give you a pointer, asbestos has been used in materials in heat and acoustic insulation, fireproofing, roofing, flooring and in many unlikely products such as toilet cisterns and mastic pads beneath your sink units. However, since the introduction of the Prohibition regulations and amendments in 1999, all forms of asbestos has been legally prohibited. In the 1970s, asbestos imports peaked at around 150,000 tonnes per annum, so the likelihood of asbestos in your building is very high.
The purpose of undertaking an asbestos survey is to ascertain whether you have asbestos-containing materials within your premises. There are no tools available which allow you to determine whether you have asbestos in situ. Any samples taken must be transported back to a UCAS-accredited laboratory to determine whether they have asbestos present by using polarised light microscopy. The purpose of a Type 1 survey is to determine, as far as is reasonably practicable, the location of all the asbestos-containing materials within a premise. All areas within a Type 1 survey should be accessed, and any areas not accessed should be duly noted on the report. A Type 1 survey doesn't take any samples, so any materials found should be presumed or strongly presumed to be asbestos, if indeed they are suspected to be so. The items found should be risk assessed. The condition of the material, the type of material that it is it a piece of insulating board or a piece of lagging, the surface coating, and the extent of the damage or deterioration which the material has suffered should also be noted. The purpose of this is to form a cornerstone of the asbestos management plan and to allow the materials within the premise to be prioritised in terms of what you should do next. Type 2 survey, as with the Type 1 survey, is designed to identify, as far as reasonably practicable, the location of all the asbestos-containing materials within a premise. All areas should be accessed, and any areas not accessed should be duly noted in the report. Unlike a Type 1, in a Type 2, samples are taken. These samples are transferred to a UCAS-accredited laboratory for analysis. All items identified are required to be risk assessed. The purpose of the risk assessment is to provide the client with an indication of the priority with which he should undertake remedial works where appropriate. Type 3 surveys are fully destructive and intrusive surveys, the intention being to provide information to the client on the presence of all the asbestos-containing materials within an area which is liable to be demolished, refurbished, or where an item of plant is to be decommissioned. Due cognizance must be paid to CDM when undertaking these surveys. The information provided normally forms the cornerstone of a specification to remove these items. Taking samples of asbestos-containing materials, or potentially asbestos-containing materials, can be a risky exercise. Although it is perfectly feasible for individuals within organisations to take their own samples if they're properly trained and competent to do so, it is most strongly recommended that the organisations that take these samples are UCAS accredited to do so.
In summary, asbestos Type 1 and Type 2 surveys will only cover the surfaces and not the infrastructure of the building. If you want to cut a hole through a wall, you need a Type 3 survey, because a Type 1 and Type 2 survey will not tell you what's within the wall.
My name's Doug McKenna. I'm the Technical Manager with Mainstream Limited and I run the Asbestos Department.
I've got a sample here, if you can just put that down for us.
Once a sample is booked into the laboratory, it's then placed in the fume cabinet and unpacked, which will allow the technician to handle the sample safely.
Initially, a number of fibres are extracted from the sample and subjected to certain tests. Individual fibres are teased out for examination using a low-power stereo microscope following techniques set out and accredited by UCAS. The fibres are then mounted on a slide in a solution of refractive index liquid ready for study under polarised light microscopy, where the individual fibres can be positively identified, utilising the fact that asbestos has distinct optical properties. When light passes through the fibre, changes in colour occur when it is orientated relative to the vibration plane of the polarised light.
The Control of Asbestos at Work regulations covers many different areas of responsibilities, and in this section we will guide you through the duty to manage asbestos in non-domestic dwellings. In these regulations, the duty holder means everyone responsible for the management of buildings. For example, at school it could be your headmaster, teacher, caretaker, or even the local authorities. These responsibilities also cover shopping centres, car parks, bus and railway stations, in fact, almost every building we use.
I'm Mike Smart. I work for BT Property Partners. I work on the safety side. This means that I'm working with the asbestos policies and procedures. BT has many different levels of responsibility since we own buildings, rent them and lease them to others within the organisation. Sometimes tracking down who the duty holder is can be quite time consuming. But we obviously have to make sure that the information that we have about asbestos is available to those who need it, those who might need to work near it and who might come into contact with it.
My name's Neil Goff. I work for the Land Securities Group as Director of Health, Safety and Environment. We're one of, if not the largest commercial property owner, manager and developer in the country. So the Control of Asbestos at Work regulations and the implications of those regulations are extensive to an organisation such as ours, and it's one of our major risk exposures if left unmanaged.
Yeah, my name is John Cheeseman. I work as a project surveyor in the property services team at Bromley and have specific responsibilities for managing asbestos in our housing stock of some 14,000 units, especially in the communal units of our flats, which form some 66% of our housing stock.
Many of our tenants are completely oblivious as to the requirements of the regulations, so I think it's right for us to take a lead in communicating and organising the lead in complying with the regulations. So we're in the process of implementing a planned programme of risk assessments, surveys for asbestos and asbestos containing materials throughout our entire portfolio. The way we tend to deal with programmes such as these is to appoint consultants to act on our behalf, specialists in their field, who can then carry out the work and provide a degree of comfort, if you like.
The residents are made aware of any asbestos containing materials that are found after a survey by our UCAS accredited consultants. The information gathered is entered onto our asbestos database and also incorporated into our management plan, and is very useful for future planned works such as refurbishments of kitchens and bathrooms.
Even a simple task such as running cables, power, telecoms, computer networks can disturb asbestos. It doesn't have to be complicated, you just have to make sure you follow the correct procedures. Where asbestos is located, one of the options in the management plan is to label it, be it on the walls, the floor, or the ceiling.
Bromley have both a proactive and reactive way of dealing with this problem. The reactive method is dealt with mainly by our contractors, and they have direct access into our asbestos database and can access all the information required prior to any operatives going on site. This is also flagged up when they place the orders, so there's an adequate warning to them. On the proactive approach, our surveyors also have access into our database where they can incorporate the information therein into the pre-tender health and safety plan, which is incorporated into the contract prior to tenders being sent out.
The asbestos register therefore includes information about the asbestos that we know about, the materials that we presume may contain asbestos, and what the management plan is for that asbestos. This means that the management plan, which is a written document, has to state how we prevent people becoming exposed. Perhaps it needs to be encapsulated and labelled and inspected on a regular basis. And in some cases, once the assessment is carried out, it may need to be removed by licensed contractors under controlled conditions. Under the duty to cooperate in the asbestos regulations, it is essential that all parties cooperate and share the information in order to ensure that no one becomes exposed to asbestos.
I know when the HSE were drafting the Control of Asbestos at Work regulations, they were struggling around the theme of who ought to be duty holder, whether it's the tenant, whether it's the landlord, whether it's the employer. And the way I see it really is that we're all in this boat together and we all need to work towards compliance. So in essence, we all have a responsibility to identify, control and manage the risk associated with asbestos.
Every employer who is liable to expose his employees to asbestos must make an assessment of their likely exposure from all proposed works. This should be reviewed at regular intervals and amended if changes are made. Fundamentally, this means it is the employer's duty to ensure that no one must come to any harm from asbestos on the premises. Where the assessment shows that asbestos is or is liable to be present in any part of the premises, the duty holder shall ensure that a written plan is produced identifying those parts of the premises that may be affected by asbestos, while specifying any necessary works to be undertaken. Generally, the areas of highest risk will need the earliest attention and the strictest management to inform those who are likely to be exposed. For example, electricians, plumbers, computer engineers and other maintenance staff who may work on your premises. Labelling and signs could be put in place if there are no other appropriate preventative or protective measures. No work is undertaken on any asbestos-containing materials unless the statutory requirements are complied with. The extreme measures being taken to protect the operatives reflects the gravity with which the HSE views the health risk to staff while handling asbestos-containing materials. Because of these concerns, all companies and employers are required to comply with statutory regulations set out by the HSE when they or their staff are working with or exposed to materials that may contain asbestos above the legal level. If this is the case, a licence is required. This legislation also affects many peripheral companies. For instance, scaffold companies and asbestos consultants engaged in supervisory works. The legal responsibility for assessing the risk and ensuring that the ensuing works are carried out correctly will rest squarely on the shoulders of the management of those companies. Before work begins on any building, structure, plant or installation, it is necessary to prepare a plan of work detailing how the work will be carried out. This has to be submitted to the HSE within a minimum of 14 days prior to any works commencing. A copy of the plan of works should be kept at the work site, together with the site file, to include induction information for not only site staff and visitors, but also details concerning the level of maintenance of equipment, safety inspection records and training certification of all staff.
Well, if your company is considering applying for an asbestos licence, the first thing you really need to do is contact the Health and Safety Asbestos Licensing Unit.
The licence application form will contain questions about health and safety management systems, maintenance arrangements and equipment used. For example, decontamination units, negative pressure units, H-type vacuum cleaners and respiratory protective equipment, together with quantitative face-fit records. Also, medical surveillance records have to be undertaken and a 12-week summary record of all staff exposure. These records must be stored for the next 40 years. It's quite a tall order. The applicant must also answer questions relating to their training and experience relevant to working with ACMs.
Under the asbestos regulations of 1983, every licensed contractor has to train his people annually. We offer the whole range of training from new operative, refresher, supervisory and management training. We also offer awareness training and specialist courses run by the BOHS.
Once the form has been completed and returned, a principal licensing inspector will visit to assess your competence and ensure that all the required systems are in place.
You to prove to them that you've got a system in place or systems in place that you can keep various records of all the equipment, the guys, exposure records, that can keep those records for at least 40 years. When you go for the application, it's you are responsible. You're the person responsible for that licence. You are responsible for all the staff, whether it be in the office or out on site personnel. So you've got to look at all the risk assessment, the management systems and make sure they're all in place to look after your staff basically, because they're the people you're responsible for.
We are now on our way to one of our training centres in Northamptonshire, where we're joined by Pettel Group, the major UK contractor. They'll be helping us simulate some asbestos removal works.
Any works that involves asbestos coatings, insulation or insulation board are notifiable to the HSE or the Environmental Health Officer of a district authority within 14 days of their starting. An ASBE 5 form, a plan of works containing a sketch plan and a copy of the contractor's asbestos licence are required in the notification. Full coordination with clients and cooperation with UCAS accredited analytical consultants must be considered. All asbestos works of this nature must be carried out in a fully controlled manner. Before any work starts, a suitable hygiene facility must be installed. Jason Bell is the Health and Safety Manager from the Pectel Group. One of his responsibilities is to ensure that the hygiene unit arrives at the site clean from its last location and that the site supervisor always follows the best working practices. The unit consists of 3 sections: the clean end, the shower unit and the dirty end. This system allows the operatives to change from their day clothes into their protective clothes, back again and then shower in order to avoid contamination. It must be connected to mains electricity and water and also be levelled. In fact, each unit has its own wastewater management system designed to avoid any environmental contamination, as well as its own negative pressure unit and air filtering system.
My name is Scott Murray. I'm the Operations Director of Pectel. My key responsibility is to ensure that the works we carry out for our customers are carried out in a safe, compliant and competent manner. Pectel has had a licence to remove asbestos and manage it for over 21 years, and we have a wealth of experience and knowledge within this field. As a result of that growth, we have expanded. Adding to its asbestos removal division, we have a building division that are also trained to enter live asbestos enclosures, having medical examination, face fits and are fit for task.
The site supervisor should assess the site file and understand the work to be undertaken and amend it if necessary. He will mark out the transit route, which he will show to his operatives and to the on-site client's representatives. He has to consider and assess many other safety aspects, in fact all hazards that may affect the operatives, especially during emergency situations. Once he is happy with the situation and his team are aware of the plan of works, then construction of the airlocks and enclosure can proceed. Approved guidelines as to the construction of enclosures and airlocks must be followed. These airlocks allow personnel to pass through a 3-stage primary decontamination system, while at the same time allowing waste material to be collected via another route, preventing contamination by airborne asbestos fibres. An enclosure is then erected round the area of works, which again is intended to imprison any airborne asbestos fibres during the removal process. This enclosure will be subject to a thorough visual examination and a smoke test prior to works commencing. Other fire suppressant practices will then be used to safeguard operatives and other people in the building. One of these is an air management system for the enclosure, which simply consists of a negative pressure unit that is fitted with a high efficiency filter and vented outside the building. Its task is to draw the flow of air across the work area from the airlocks. This assists in the reduction of dust levels within the enclosure and also keeps the enclosure at a pressure lower than that of the surrounding area. Any holes or leaks in the enclosure will cause clean air to be drawn in from the outside. An inspection panel must also be fitted so that the operatives and their progress can be monitored at all times. Access to the work area must follow the transit route from the hygiene unit to the airlock. Here, the operatives use colour-coded overalls to help to identify contaminated items. In the clean end, they take off their transit overalls to reveal their red work clothes underneath. They also change from their transit footwear or cover over the existing footwear and proceed through the airlock into the enclosure. A training exercise has been set up to demonstrate the different techniques for dust suppression while stripping asbestos. Dry stripping of asbestos should be avoided. The injection system. Normally practice on pipe lagging so as to stabilise and encapsulate any loose fibres while removing the lagging. Shadow vac technique, with the use of an H-type vacuum cleaner, ideal for minor tasks and cleaning operations. After the asbestos removal works have been completed, the operatives will fine, clean and dry the working area prior to the analyst undertaking the final clearance procedure to strike the enclosure. All equipment used will also be cleaned and decontaminated. Spraying of liquid surfactant. Wetting the surfaces in order to prevent any loose fibres from escaping. This system is mainly used to assist with stripping techniques, and again after the final clearance by the analyst, ensuring that any fibres are sealed to the poly. Breaks are required for all staff at the end of shifts, and they must retrace their steps through the 3-stage airlock. The dirty stage of the airlock is to allow each operative to dispose of his red working clothes, which have by now become asbestos contaminated waste, and to vacuum their whole body, especially their hair. Stage 2 requires a preliminary body shower, including respirator. At the clean stage, while still wearing the respirator, the operative will change back into the blue transit suit and shoes and follow the transit route back to the hygiene unit. Remembering that this rigorous procedure has to be followed precisely for every entry and exit, again serves to remind us of the seriousness with which the HSE regards asbestos as a hazard. It is also hugely reassuring for the operatives to know that their thorough procedures ensure that there is no risk of taking asbestos fibres back to their families. UCAS accredited analysts are there to ensure that the regulations and best practices set down by the HSE are stringently followed. Analysts are independent and conscientious, and if dissatisfied, are able to stop work in progress or insist that remedial measures be immediately taken.
Hi, I'm Rob Blackburn, the Chair of ATAC and the MD of Redstall Analysts, a company that covers the consulting and analytical elements of the asbestos industry. Analytical companies are usually employed in a supervisory capacity to discharge the client's liabilities. These roles include the writing of specifications, scope of works, undertaking leak tests, background tests, reassurance tests, right the way through to the certificate of reoccupation on completion of the project. The principles of air monitoring are that a known volume of air is drawn over a filter. The filter is then mounted and counted using phase contrast microscopy. This gives us a density, which is then extrapolated up to an airborne fibre concentration. The most important test that we perform as analysts in the industry is the personal monitoring and background statics that we take inside the enclosure. These tests are the acid test of the performance of the contractor while they're in the enclosure. We know when the works are completed when the certificate of reoccupation has been issued by the analyst on site. There are 4 stages that have to be gone through. The first stage is the preliminary inspection of the site to ensure that, as far as is reasonably practical, all works have been complete to this point. We then move on to the second stage, which is a thorough visual inspection of the enclosure. This ensures that it is dry, dust and debris free. Stage 3 of the clearance procedure is the taking of disturbed air tests within the enclosure. Stage 4 of the clearance procedure involves the visual inspection of the works area and the adjacent areas. This is the final sign-off prior to the issue of the reoccupation certificate.
When working at height or using a mobile tower, regular inspections by a competent person needs to be undertaken. In this particular case, Jason Bell, Manager for Health and Safety, will check the tower, ensuring the safety of his men. Some forms of asbestos-containing materials do not require a licence to remove, as they have a very low level of asbestos within them. And the asbestos is so tightly bonded to other compounds within the material that there is only a relatively low level of risk of releasing asbestos fibres into the air even when they are disturbed. A material that is commonly in use that does not require a licence to work with is asbestos cement for roofing or for asbestos gaskets. Even so, HSE directives insist that any removal or demolition of this material must follow the correct procedure for working with ACMs. All asbestos waste materials must still be double bagged and sealed and removed according to regulations. Asbestos waste has to be removed from the workplace with all due care for the environment. It must be completely sealed within leak-tight plastic bags or sheets and double wrapped. When the asbestos waste is removed from the enclosure, it is placed in the middle chamber of the bag lock by one operative and removed by another. It is then taken along the transit route to a special skip, or a van that has had its inside shell treated to minimise surface attraction to dust, and its doors altered to become airtight. All asbestos waste removal requires a consignment note from the Environment Agency and 3 days notice of any works about to be undertaken. The waste is then taken to a waste licensed landfill. The consignment note must be held for a period of 6 years.
If I was to give advice to another organisation, it would really follow, well, two primary routes. Firstly, positive communication about asbestos to the people who are affected by it. Secondly, perhaps operationally, we have on board term consultants, specialists in their field, UCAS accredited, following industry standards. And the process would be that they would go in, take samples of the affected area, have those samples analysed, and it's not until the analysis comes back and the results of that analysis comes back that we would be in a position to comment as to the asbestos situation within a building.
Every situation is unique and must be assessed for its own individual needs. I cannot emphasise strongly enough the complete need for respect when dealing with such a dangerous substance like asbestos. I hope that you have found this information both useful and informative, and I would like to thank all of those who have contributed into the making of this video.